African leaders advised to minimize reliance on donor funding as they meet in Egypt.
The place of state authority and traditional rulers in community policing emphasized at 11th Assembly of Traditional Rulers.
Senate calls for a state of emergency on unemployment in Nigeria.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the cost of election litigation.
Election litigation is usually deployed by candidates and political parties to seek redress in courts, in most cases before and after elections.
There's no question about that, Kiri. Usually before the elections, these are intra-party affairs where aspirants who go through, for instance, the primaries of the specific political party are dissatisfied with the outcome, and then they seek, of course, to be on the ballot as the party's truly nominated candidate. And then, of course, once the party presents its candidate and goes into election head-to-head with other candidates, and the outcome is unsatisfactory to the particular candidate or the parties and the candidate also seek redress in court. In this case, the court of first instance being the tribunal.
In Nigeria, historically speaking, there are some candidates of political parties who were not nominated and who claimed to have come first in the primaries, but were not nominated. Perhaps if you're not the candidate of the political party or the godfather in that environment, and some of them succeeded, by going through a very tortuous litigation process, that took a while before judgment is delivered.
Well, I'm sure you're referring to the Amechi case, which is a very popular one in terms of election jurisprudence in Nigeria. But the circumstances are, slightly altered. Now, what happens is the reason why political parties are very important in elections and in election litigation is that the Nigerian Constitution provides specifically that there is no independent candidacy, but rather any person who aspires to any elective office must belong to a particular political party. And the party, of course, has its own rules to govern the conduct of primaries. But those rules are also within the ambit of the Electoral Act and then the provisions in the Constitution.
And, of course, the provisions in that political party, because most of them that lost the case based on the regulation provided by that same party, which was not adhered to, during primaries. And what really bothers Nigerians in this connection is the litigation cost, the cost of litigation. And that brings to mind where there are high-profile cases, high-profile political cases that may actually, require huge sums of money for you to, prosecute such cases in court.
If you say it's a high-profile case, it's not that it may require. It indeed consumes a great deal of resources. And we have seen that, for instance, amendments to the Constitution have also now reduced the duration of litigation. But that hasn't altogether brought down the cost. What it has done in that regard is to ensure that what in law is referred to as the rest, in this case the elective office, is it exhausted before the litigant, in this case the petitioner or the appellant, has the full benefit of justice. You see that if a governor, for instance, is elected for 4 years, and then the person who occupies the office is being challenged on account of the outcome of the election, in the past the case could drag on for so long a time that before you know it, virtually 4 years.
Is over.
It could be the same thing with the House of Reps, but there are now constitutional amendments stipulating the periods over which the matters will have to be dealt with at the tribunal and the Court of Appeal, and then, of course, if the matter gets to the Supreme Court for governorship elections, then that also has its own time limit.
You recall in the past, petitions or rather litigations on National Assembly members usually was going to the Supreme Court,
No,
until